Hi there. Thank you for returning again today for another episode in the series of interviews for dog owners and dog people, dog lovers to discover the secrets of dog experts and transform your life and connection to create the best friend you've always wanted. Today, I have Liz Murdoch here. She's a wonderful dog expert to add to this list. I actually love your abilities, but first I will just pass on a bit about you. You have your master's in international education and communication. So you're a long history of teaching, which is wonderful. And you also work with animal communication and energy healing. You've won several Liz has won several awards and certifications for her work. And she's also working with children, teaching, which is in active living and accessing intuitive abilities. Intuitive abilities, these great words. Before I go on there and keep going, I will just say thank you so much, Liz, for coming. You have some amazing experience and abilities to share. And I would love you to, if you want to just go right into it or you want to give some history on yourself, that's fine.
So I think I'm happy to answer questions. I think the thing that I get all the time from people is how does it really work? And so hopefully we'll touch upon that, but it's just being open and receiving information from the dogs. And I sit and work with the dogs. I can look at a picture, I can do it in person, but it's about, and yes, everyone can do it. So I hope that people will listen openly, because animal communication for some is they're not familiar or they're not comfortable with. And so I hope that you will be able to open up and see how it can apply to you and your relationship with your dog or the dogs that you work with. So I think that's how I
Yeah.
like to start off sharing.
Remain open to
Yeah.
communication and learning because we're just learning how to understand dogs.
Yeah, and learning how we do it. Somebody else, might get a knowing sense. I was listening to some trainers talk who work with scent dogs who sniff out, whether it's truffles or bombs, and that partnership. Some of them get a knowing sense where they are convinced that the dog is done, or the dog's not done yet, or the dog is going to go over there, or that they have a strong knowing sense. But some people don't get a knowing sense with their dog, they get a feeling. And so I want to make sure people know that if something that I'm saying doesn't feel right for you, that might just be because you are a person who feels things or experiences your dog relationship and your knowingness in a different way. But I still want people to honor that if they hear like a voice. I sometimes will hear a dog say a certain word, and yeah, it's different from what we're used to, but it happens. And so I just want people to be open to finding out what is their way of understanding their dog intuitively. So
And their dog wants them to.
definitely. They all do. And people will sometimes say to me, can you tell my dog I love her? I had someone there having a dog transported. And she said, I just want her to know we already love her. And really, I can tell an animal something, but they can also feel it from the person. And if they already have a relationship with the dog wants to hear it, or they already know that you love them. So yes, I can tell them things, but you can too.
Yeah, so it involves like actually being open
Yeah.
and realizing that there's way more than you think to what they're saying.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah, there's more. And even I will find that as an animal will say something like, one of my I do find out an animal's favorite thing early in my chat sessions, and I will say your dog is wants to talk about food. The kitchen time is good. Well, a lot of dogs like kitchen time, so I'll go in and I'll say, okay, tell me specifically, show me or give me a knowing so that I can tell your dog mom, or I can tell whatever they call the person. I can say exactly what it is you're talking about. And when I go back and I'm quiet and I close my eyes and I just wait, they can always add more information until I get It's always a breath. Okay, I'm done. That's what it is. And if the person says, I'll say, I see this, like this brown stick that you give your dog, that your dog wants more of. And they'll say, well, I don't know. And I'll say, yeah, I want you, who I'm giving the information to, I want you to think about that. And they'll go, oh, you know what? We used to get those treats at that store. Do you remember? They'll say to each other, oh my gosh, yes, you're right. He hasn't had those for a while. Oh, really? He wants those. I'm like, yeah. And then often the dog will then change its behavior, seeing that the person is understanding. So yeah, it's allowing the dog to be as specific until it's always a breath, like, I'm done.
Yeah, it is. I would swear my dogs tell me things.
Yeah. And a lot of
Ask my
people say
husband.
that.
Ask my husband. I say, you know what, you
Yeah.
want this and that. And
Yeah, I had a client who had a dog that had medical neurological issues, and the dog was, we were doing a Zoom call, and the dog was all over the place. And I said, can you take your hand and put it right here on the dog? And I showed her, and she put her hand there, and the dog just, literally went limp and fell asleep. And this was a dog that had been all wiggling, but it wanted this reassurance and the energy from her hand. So she did that. And then we were talking about it. And at the end, I said, do you notice that for the rest of our conversation, the dog was asleep like a baby taking an afternoon nap? And she said, this particular woman lives with her family. And she said, my dad has told me that when I'm not here, he says, I get the dog to sleep fine. I just put him down, put your hands on him, he falls asleep, and the dog's fine. So yeah, sometimes we know things, we don't think it's animal communication or energy work or healing hands. I call it healing hands too, but often the things we're not aware of that we're doing with our dogs is exactly what I'm talking about, that we're intuitively or instinctively doing. We have our instincts that
I think that sometimes we tend to look for something more complicated. We look
Mhm.
much bigger than what a basic need of, just like you say, just having your hand on you and sitting beside you. We get worried that we need to go do classes, or or go for this gigantic long walk, or when really sometimes they just want that. They just want to be with you and near you and your
Yeah,
comforting hand, like you're saying.
not to let people off the hook when their dog does need
Yeah.
training work, or the dog is now 3 and it's this big dog and
Oh
it's
yeah.
in this environment. Yeah, it probably would benefit from some kind of a refresher, or there are dogs that they do need their walks. And so
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I feel like because I've seen it with people. I've seen like somebody throw something and then just like, oh, the dog's gone, and just go like that, and don't realize that the dog actually was never gone, and the dog, is looking for the interaction, maybe just
mhm.
not doing exactly what we want the dog to do, like bring the ball back, but they're still involved. And you know what I mean? Like it's just so
Mm.
much deeper.
Well, and also when you say about what we want the dog to do, that happens all the time. And, especially with people who get a second dog, who get it because they want the dog to be a playmate for the dog they currently have. The dog they currently have is getting older, so they want another dog, sort of maybe to ease, to get ready and all. But dog number 2 is its own personality or essence. They're not people, but they have their own preferences. And dog number 2, even though they can look identical, whether they're from a rescue or a breeder, and people think, oh, it's from the same mom, um, they can be very different. And the more we accept that, and the more we trust our instincts and being able to admit that the dogs are different, that is important too. That may be, I mean, I think people have today are more inclined to have multiple dogs than they did in the olden days, and maybe that's why we have some new issues and some issues that are um, still making the overpopulation of dogs and the concerns that come up, because we're not used to having 2 dogs and we want them to be identical. They look exactly the same, they're the same breed, but they're not. And we have to honor that.
I think you're right. I really, everybody's I don't like to use the word everybody, but a lot of people like to get two dogs so that they can have, like you said, a buddy. And I have four, and oh my goodness, every single one is different. Everyone
Yeah.
has a lot of completely different things to say and to do, and the ways of being together even.
Yeah,
And
it's hard to accept that too when we want them a certain way. I mean, I have people who say my second dog doesn't want to go to the dog park, and you know, not all dogs are meant for dog parks, but when you already have one dog and your family has this structure, or we like to go hiking and now we've got this dog that got injured and it can't go hiking, it's healing, what do we do? And that's where issues start. But as long as we remember, it's like having a person in your home who has a different interest, or children have very different interests, and that dogs have different interests, they have different favorite things, they have different things that they want us to know. I always end a chat session with, okay, tell me whatever you want your people to know. And invariably when there's two people in or multiple people in the chat session that we're having, what the dog's relationship with the different people in a home is so different. They might talk about, yesterday this dog was talking about with the dad, loves the car rides. I mean, I'm getting this feeling, and they cuddle close, and the mom's laughing. Yeah, they sit really close. It's almost like he's in his lap. And then the dog is saying something totally different from the mom. So dogs have different relationships, and people know this, but when I'm communicating with them and I'm just sitting there and I'm getting this image and this feeling of the bumping in the car, and I'm like, it's not the couch because there's movement, it's the car ride. It's amazing. And when we honor that, it shifts everything.
oh
It shifts
yeah.
everything.
And I really, I do, I think I saw your, well, what's your school? Sorry, talking with the dogs, because
Talking
every
with the
dog
dog.
has a story. And I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that they are all talking to us differently. And when
They
we
are.
give that opportunity to be open and to listen, they can tell you, they actually make a lot of things, even just with body language, never mind the sense and the feeling
Yeah.
that you can get.
Yes.
Like there's
Yes.
so much.
So I tell people to, start by what you observe or what words your dog knows. I talked to a trainer who said, you know, she only understands treats, the word treats. And I'm like, there's so many more words. My dogs know turn around, because when we go on walks, I'm like, I'm done. Okay, okay, turn around. As soon as I say turn, they start turning around. And, people can debate, oh, they're feeling a tug on the leash or something, but you know, I
I
think
think they
there's a
know.
lot in the words.
Just words and actions, right? We know, just, I mean, separation anxiety is a huge thing right now, and I always telling people, well, practice you're going to leave routine all the time.
Yeah.
Just do it and let the dog get used to it, because they know.
My dogs know. I mean, my dogs can't hear you talk because I have headsets on, and I have one over to my left, one to my right, and I don't know where the other one is. I have three dogs. They will know when we are finishing up, and they will all get up because I had to train my dogs that they get a little something when I'm actually, after I click end or leave on a call, and they can sense it from whatever it is, whoever that I'm talking to, they will know.
They know, I think they
So
know, what I'm thinking. They know, just, yeah, the conversation and the way we're talking, and that it's very, they're so intuitive, the
yeah.
dogs.
So I like to be practical. So I was sort of saying, if for anyone who's listening, who's like going to try this, is notice the words that your dogs know, and notice the behaviors that your dogs are doing that mean something. And that's how it starts building this muscle and ability to do this. And people who have working dogs as a partner, I did an animal assisted therapy. We were certified and went into cancer wards with children. We worked in animal assisted therapy with hundreds of patients and teams of doctors and physical therapists. And when you observe what your dog knows, or a behavior, other people who do this will say, I just know what my dog is thinking. I know. And so for people wanting to try this, that's a great starting point. Start observing and maybe even journaling what it is that you know that's beyond just behavior issues, but a knowing of that your dog does. If it flicks its head a certain way, I mean that's behavior, but still the knowing, the feelings within you about your dog. If your dog is doing something or just looking at you and you're like, wait a minute, I can tell by the eyes something's bugging him. And then you observe those things and then you follow through on, okay, what is it, buddy? What do I need to know? And it starts building that muscle. But I think that when we look at our dogs sort of as team members and partners in life, rather than that's my dog, the communication strengthens that
And
intuitive
when
knowingness.
and once you start doing that, and it like, and your dog knows that you're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just gets better. They'll start
Well, because they know
communicating it
you'll
more and more.
listen.
Yeah, they know you're.
Yes. Yeah, I joke.
That's it.
If you want your dog to tell you something and you don't respect it, I just told people, I think you need to go to the vet and get that checked. And they're like, well, I don't know, it's so expensive. I'm like, then why are we here? So it's like, well, the dog is like, why should I tell you if you're
Yeah,
not going to take it seriously? So
that's true. Yeah.
yeah, you have to
Honest,
act upon it.
I would swear my dogs come to me right away now. The trust is there. And if something's
Hmm.
wrong, that they will show me
Yeah.
very clearly, very clearly. And even my friend's dog who had something on his paw for the longest time after he got it removed, I came in the door and he would show me. Like he would
Hmm.
just, and he didn't do that with other people. Like it was just, when you open up the communication, right?
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
just grows, and dogs love it. They're waiting for it.
Yeah. Yeah. They do. They do. Have you seen the video of the dog that it was walking with its person and she had an epileptic? It was the first one. They didn't know she had seizures. She had one on the snow, and the dog stopped a car, ran into the street and stopped a car, stood there. So the person would get out and the dog ran over to the person on the ground. And people were like, oh, it's just a 1-year-old dog. It's like 1-year-old dogs can be pretty smart.
And it's true. I mean, there's stories where I remember a few years back, there was one for a long time where a dog, I can't remember, I think it was a shepherd or something, but it had got an RCMP to follow it to where somebody was in trouble, and it was a
Hmm.
long ways.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
dog, well, I mean, we can probably name a million dogs that were on TV, but like it's real. It's
Yeah, so they
real.
have that ability. So again, I like to go back to people's like, okay, well, that's that dog, that's special. And I have talked to thousands of dogs all over the world, all different ages. I talked to, there's a 21-year-old blind dog in London that I talked to last January, and we were walking, and I said to the man, wait, she can see. I said it's sort of like foggy, but she can see, because I had this vision of her what she saw. And he goes, yeah, it's sort of foggy. And I was like, wow, it's interesting. But regardless of the age of the dog or where it is, or whether it's been a working dog or whether it's just the family dog, oh, that's just the dog, they all have something to say. Every dog has had something to share with me that its person has verified, is like, oh, that's so true. So I want to help people open up to that with their dog or the
Yeah.
dogs they work with. If we can shift, I think it will help change some of the concerns or issues that we have.
Yeah, you know what, and I do believe like that's, I've been helping people to understand their dog, but I feel like um you open it up to even more possibility, like even deeper. And I
Yes.
mean, I've always known that whatever we think is our view and our interpretation definitely doesn't mean it's the dog's.
Right.
There's no
But
100%.
the science people talk about, was it scientifically proven? It's like, well, what's scientifically proven is the research that's been completed and published and shared. There's current research that's going on that's just not completed, and people are exploring it, and their findings aren't public because they don't meet the scientific findings yet that we have as our process for sharing a scientific find. Science finds this. But just because science hasn't done it yet and published it, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be proven as, oh, wow, a lot of dogs do send messages, because I do it every day.
I I I believe totally that they do, and I believe
Yeah.
that everybody's dog is trying, and that's what we want to. I like the idea of recording, like video recording, because then even if you put in their living room and you're sitting there watching TV and just for a bit while you're doing regular activities and seeing how your dog is reacting and how much that you don't even see that your dog
Well,
is communicating too.
even that though, you get to know your dog. And if you, because again, it can take people a while. I call some people, closet, are you a closet dog talker? So people don't always want to admit it. So it's like, okay, fine, you're not there yet. But in looking at the videos of your dog and just noticing the behavior, you might find, oh, that's interesting. When we're not home, first of all, he's actually fine. A lot of them are fine, and it's our own anxiety. But and the second thing is like, oh, I noticed that he always goes to that certain pillow, and what you notice when you observe the video. So it's not judging, it's just like, oh, what patterns does your dog, and just get to know your dog better. And where in the room does your dog always go to the same place, or maybe she doesn't. But those videos, I would say, besides understanding communication, just getting to know your dog
Just
is
learning
is
your dog.
important. Just watch what your dog does. How long does it sleep? Oh, like I know that if I leave them more than 6 hours now, I have senior dogs that one of them will, I think it's my Chihuahua, go to the bathroom. Even if I've let her out before, she can't hold it as long. And so I just don't leave her that long. I make arrangements, so she can get out. But if she has an accident, it's like, oh, well, it's my own fault. But learning your dog's behavior when you're gone will make a difference, and also ease your own anxiety or help what arrangements you need to make for your dog. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I still can't believe I used to work when I was nursing. I was gone for like 13, 14 hours. And I had a couple chihuahuas at that one point there, and they were fine. I mean, thank goodness to me they seemed
yeah,
fine. I don't know if they were in their mind, but I do believe that dogs do. I do believe dogs do a lot of sleeping when we're not there,
yeah.
depending on the dog,
I've
I
had
guess.
so I've had clients, not a lot, doesn't always come up. When I say to the dogs, tell me what you want your people to know, it's all over the place. But there was this one particular dog was, tell her not to worry about. I'm like, oh, it says tell you not to worry when you're at work. I'm fine. I like the alone time. And the woman burst into tears, and her colleagues, this was at an event. And so there were people around. Often the sessions are private, but at an event, sometimes, people can choose if they want to let others listen. So her colleagues that she works with who were there start laughing and like, oh my gosh, she's always saying, I need to go. I'm worried about my dog. I hope it's okay. And I go, no, your dog is saying, don't worry. And
Oh,
I was just sharing the message. I had no idea she worried, but it changed her whole relationship with her dog. And how she was able to function at work because she was no longer worried.
yeah, not worried. I mean, I definitely don't want to downplay what I know people go through with separation anxiety, but well, even just being aware of if there really is a problem, like you say, like
Yeah. So I don't want to do a disservice, especially now with the pandemic and people who have been home.
yeah,
And that, yes, leaving a dog alone, you need to know what to do. And mine are older and we've been through this. So I know, but with younger dogs, and if you haven't done this, yes, it's good to know. But the point of what I do in animal communication or is finding out. And when a person gets information that then they can then take back and play with or verify, or it's meaningful of why the animal would say that, that's what's in my work, or in someone's own work with the animal communication, why it can be important, because it can alleviate the person's anxiety. And when they're projecting, oh, my dog doesn't like such and such, well, maybe your dog is okay and that's about you. Or it's clearing out the person's projections. So yes, some people and dogs would benefit from work with separation anxiety. I want to differentiate that because it's important, but not all dogs are as anxious, or maybe, yes, some dogs are okay being left alone for the appropriate amount of time, but it's up to the person to know what the appropriate amount of time is. So I want to make sure that's
Yeah.
clear.
And start at the baseline if you need to work, look at communicating and helping the dog and getting, it's all possible. They can,
Yeah. Yeah. And clearing out their projections of what they think. I've had dogs say, or people might think that their dog doesn't like something or does. And I'll say, oh no, the dog is saying they don't like too much of it, that sometimes it gets out of hand, and the dog will clarify. And the person's like, really? And then I'll say, yeah, his head gets tired when he's playing too much. It's sore. A shorter amount of time would be better, but he keeps doing it because he wants to please you. And they're like, oh, I had no idea. And I'm like, just thinking, yeah, and then my neck will get sore. I'm like, yeah, it just not so much. And they need that adjustment because we project with our own dogs, and we want things from our
I was,
own dogs.
yeah, I was just going to
Sometimes
say we expect things, and sometimes the dog's on a different page completely.
yeah, or yeah, we want them to fill a need that they can't fill, whether it's dressing up. Like I have a Chihuahua. She doesn't like to be dressed up in certain things. She hates it. She'll like a coat when she's cold, but yeah, I mean, if I was someone who wanted to dress my dog, I mean, there's so many cute outfits and things. If I was like trying to do that to her every day, she would hate that. So knowing what our dogs like, their preferences, and animal communication can help us really hear it or feel it and know it more clearly than just a little bit.
Yes, well, I mean, it's interesting that you just say that. It's just that topic itself, because I have one dog that really doesn't have much hair, and we live
Mm-hmm.
in Canada, and it gets lots of
Yeah.
snow here and gets very cold. We had frost last night. Good
Yeah.
thing the garden's not in yet.
Mm-hmm.
um, and he really makes it very clear to me which of his sweaters he likes. He
Yeah.
just,
They
it's
take their
very clear
paws
to
in it.
me. Yeah, very quickly. And even it's kind of rare that he does kind of say, okay, put a sweater on, because he knows I think he knows he's going to be not have much fun, and he knows I'll take it
Right.
off quickly if he doesn't need it. Like, I'm not going to leave it on when he doesn't need it at all. um
Mm-hmm.
but there's times that, yeah, immediately I can just tell he doesn't like the material, or they slide down and they hurt him on his arms here because he's really sleek. um
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just even
Yeah.
sweaters, but the other dogs like it.
Yeah, well, it comes up with blankets when dogs sleep in the family bed or on the couch. I've had dogs as they get older say, "Oh, it's too much like fluff, the pillows or the blankets. It's hard to walk." And they'll be, "Oh yeah, she's getting older. She can't move." Or they will say, "I like a certain texture." This one dog described his blanket that it liked. I go, "It's like wool, but it's this color." And the people were like, "I don't know." My husband and I said, "It's like a sweater." And they're like, no, my husband doesn't wear sweaters. I'm like, well, I'm getting this. It's grayish, and it was the blanket that was on the couch that the dog was laying on. That I didn't see it. It was, and I'm like, she loves this. It's very special. Um, so yeah, they have preference over textures. The senior dogs that can't, they'll say they love your home. They go, oh, good. They'll say, is she happy? I'm like, oh yeah, she's happy. She's like, she's happy. I go, but she says that she slips on the floor. I guess she can't walk. I guess you have hardwood floors. Like she needs some padding. It's like, it's hard. She slips. And like, yeah, I've noticed she started slipping. I'm like, you need to get her a rug or something because she doesn't like that. Yeah. So being aware of textures, all these things, it's like having a child. If we're going to be dog parents, then, and not everyone is needs to be a dog parent, but I know that's a lot of people talk that way. It's like our children have preferences. So then if you're going to go the parenting route with your dog, dogs have preferences, and we have to, as a parent, it's like, oh my gosh, I remember when my daughter turned 2, it's like she doesn't want to do that, and the dogs are the same way, and if we try and make them do that, they're not going to thrive. So yeah, again, animal communication, whether being open to what you receive on your own, or working with someone who can help you figure out your animal's preferences is really, I think it's important. But if you're not there yet, I encourage you to be open to it, figuring out what your dog's preferences are.
Just because, and just because, just like us, they like to
Mhm.
be comfortable,
Yeah,
right?
and they
They
like to
feel
feel
safe.
safe. They, some dogs, especially in multi-dog homes, they'll say, "Well, does my dog like the others?" And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Oh, yes, they're fine, or they don't really care, but this, a dog that wanted more space. Sometimes they just need a little bit more space. Like there are people who want more space, and that's all it is. Just, leave them alone. My dog, I have one dog, he loves his crate. The door's always open. He goes in, and sort of nice, because if someone's coming to the house who I don't know, I'll just put him in the crate if I want. Yeah, they, some dogs really like their space, whether it's a crate or whether it's their bed that they don't have to share. Yeah, knowing those preferences and letting them be. And if we do that, then sometimes things don't become a bigger issue. They don't start, you know resource guarding or something, because they know, hey, that's mine, I'm fine, I can have what I want now.
Yeah, just be.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
that's I mean, you brought up the topic of the dogs. I know my one dog, I'm sure she could do without the others. She would be very happy if she was the only one. And that's why it's
right,
very important for her to get that time,
yes,
with just her and not have to compete and whatever all the things about the crazy boys drive her nuts. Right? Like
right,
just
yeah, or the walks alone. I did work with a dog trainer. I always go to a dog trainer when I have a new dog. It's a refresher for me. It helps point out, like, oh, don't do this. So she said, and I have two labs, and when Wolfgang came, he was puppy, and he was very reactive. He'd been in the backyard for 5 months, never socialized, never on a leash. They couldn't find a home. They were going to keep him, the whole thing. So she said, walk him alone and walk him on a different route every day, so that he's forced to get to know the world. And it was great. And some walks were short and some walks were long, and it was great. And to this day, they get walks together and they get walks alone. And now they're like, I don't know, he's like 11, and they get walks alone, and they love their alone time. And they're fed separately. And I know that Teddy will walk in every morning. He wants me to bend down and hug him, whereas Wolfgang wants a back rub. And so when we know their preferences, it fills them up. Teddy gets his hug, and then he goes and does whatever he wants, after he's had his meal and everything. But when we can honor the little things that they like, those little preferences, it makes a huge difference. And I've got clients, I do with my dogs, clients who do these shifts, and like, oh my gosh, it changed everything.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I go, yeah. I could probably
And
write a
even
book on the differences in each of my dogs. Just talking to you. Yeah, they're all different.
Yeah, and that awareness. Like, so I had a client call me the other day, yesterday. She texted me and she said they're transporting this rescue dog, and she wanted to know how it's going. And I said, it's fine. I go, oh, but the lights are the thing that other than the lights, um, that everything's fine, and some other things, that the lights was the concern. So she called the transport to check in, and she's like, how's everything going? And she was told things are going well, but this dog freaked out when they got to this one part of town where there are all these bright lights. And so she was like calling me back, like, I can't believe this, you said that, how random is that? But as a tip, and I always like to apply things, is that when you or anyone who's working, if you're working with an animal communicator and you're not sure of something, ask them to be specific and tell you everything, because it's those random things that if I didn't say, if I was embarrassed, like, well, I don't know, this doesn't make sense to me, the lights, that's often the gold nugget of what an animal wants to know. And so, um, that's why I love sharing about this. Be open to those random things. And if they don't make sense to you at first, you're like, you can ask the animal communicator you're working with, or the trainer who's giving you insights, or dog behaviors, whoever, or yourself. Try and get clarification, but be open to what it is, because that often makes a difference.
Oh yeah, that makes so much sense. And
Yeah.
just, my first thought would be instinct,
Yeah.
right? Like I kind of always say it's my instinct, but it's that intuition. And so you're just encouraging people to tap into that, to actually
Hmm.
to pay attention. And oh, it's so much wonderful thought for people to start, connecting and looking at their dog differently. And
Just a shift.
yeah, just a little shift, and just and it's not even hard to just sit and watch. It's not even
Yeah.
a
Because
hard
people,
thing, just mental.
yeah, people are comfortable in the business world saying, well, I trusted my guy. I just had a hunch. I made this business decision. And, there's a book out now called Believe It, where she sold her, Jamie Kern Lima sold her company to L'Oreal for $1 billion cash. And all throughout her book, she talks about her intuition, and she hung in there because she believed in her product. And so many people they just had a knowing sense about something in their business world. And they're comfortable. They write books, they make money, they make investments, they hire people, they fire people. So why not do that with our pets? And you can do it with a dog. I talk to cats. I help find lost cats. I mean, I've talked to orangutans and anything that we can. If we can do it with our business, why not with our animals?
Absolutely, they're worth it. They're waiting for yeah, to communicate. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
connection, you can't really, if you ask me, your connection just grows when you're communicating and understanding and meeting those needs, and being open being open to,
Yeah.
dogs are
It's
dogs,
like
not
going
people.
wider, like
Yeah.
blossoming. We can admire it's like we can admire a flower or something that, oh, that's pretty, but if we sat there longer and looked at the flower, we're always like, oh wow, the smell, look at the smell, look at the different colors. It's not just pink, it's got shades. And what else do you notice? I mean, that could be a good exercise. Practice with the flower. What else do you notice? And as we keep doing that, we get that with our animals too.
And your dog will, yeah, and dogs will respond and appreciate that so much, just like we do. If somebody pays attention, is willing to
Yeah.
see what we need, what you want, and how you're feeling, right? It's
Yeah.
wow.
And if someone, here's the thing, is if someone wants to practice, and it's hard to do when you're home. I know our home lives get busy, or the dogs want something, it's hard to sit, or you don't want someone to know you're practicing your dog talking. Do it with a picture. If you're waiting somewhere for 10 minutes, people are on their phones all the time. No one's going to know. You have a picture of your dog. Most people have a picture of their dog. Just look, or a dog, just look at it and see, okay, what do you want me to know? What is this? And just see what happens. And yeah, sometimes you're going to get nothing, especially if you're not cleared out and feeling open to it. But that's how a lot of animal communicators who teach start, is with a photograph. And they'll have you turn and switch to a partner and, look at the dog and see what, okay, I'm looking at Jody's dog. Let me see. Well, I'm getting the, and I teach this, and I've had people only get 3 things. And I'm like, okay, they got ball or yard or something. And I'll say, okay, now I want you to go back and look at your dog again, or look at your neighbor's dog and your partner, and figure out, why is the animal showing, ask the animal, why are you showing me the backyard? And they'll do that. And we'll give them a couple 5 minutes, and they'll come back and they'll say, well, I got that Jody's dog really likes this one particular corner in the yard. For some reason, this one dog always goes there. And the person is like, that's all I got. And the person whose dog it is going, oh wow, that's so true. So just try it.
Yeah. I
Try it with a
I
picture while you're waiting in line somewhere.
I will. I've already thinking and looking at pictures differently since talking to you. Yeah.
Good.
It's so interesting, and I love it. And I'm
It
really
can be a
hoping,
game.
yeah, I just want to do something, or maybe I just want to sit, with you. Just want to sit
Yeah.
beside you and look at the world and appreciate it all and just be, right?
Yeah.
Dogs are really good at just being. You know,
Just be, but dogs also can notice. So be open to noticing rather. People will think or they'll want to tune out. And that's fine too. We need to tune out. Sometimes you have to tune out things before you can tune in. So that's okay. But when you're ready, no pressure, no one knows. When you're ready, just see what you notice that you're receiving from your dog.
awesome. Yeah, be
Mm,
open to receiving.
open to
It's
receiving.
a great gift. It is. You know, dogs need
Yeah,
it. Learning
it
it,
is.
practicing.
Oh,
Oh,
you want to say something?
you hear mine? They're at the door because the door's closed. I don't know, you know, if is there anything else you wanted to add? I think you went over lots of fantastic stuff there.
I
Great
think it's a good
information.
starting point. People can reach out to me. Most people tend to go to Instagram, talking with the dogs, and DM me. You can ask a question. People can they go through my website. Just try it. I feel like I just want to share it. I can't do it with every dog. I can teach people, but it's open. It's like open. Let it unfold. This that's
Yeah,
what my message is.
definitely. And the possibilities. There's amazing
Yeah.
possibilities when you do that.
Well, for people who work with dogs, whether you're a dog trainer or a groomer, it can shift your business, I think. That's because you're going to have a different level of connection and understanding than to help your clients. So I think that it can be applied for people in business. I know it can. I work with people who use it and to enhance it and shift it and even bring more joy because then you don't have to, even as a groomer, you don't have to worry about your clients like, oh, well, good luck or be as frustrated. You've given them something to then pass along. And I think it's a relief. I think it can be a relief to say, okay, for a trainer to be able to say to a person taking home their dog the same kind of thing. I want you to observe your dog and notice its personality and its preferences and be open to what you receive from your dog. If we all start talking that way, then I think we can have a big shift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. You know, it totally talking to the dog.
Yes.
It is. I
Yes.
thank you so much. This is
You're
amazing.
welcome.
There's lots of
You're
great
welcome.
info. I'll finish this up. Hold on. Thanks a lot so much, Liz, for all this amazing communicating. It's gonna be great for dogs. And
I
I'll
hope so.